Blog Talk Radio.
Welcome to A Life of Simple Joy with Jean Ann Duckworth. A Life of Simple Joy is brought to you by Devotions to Go, spiritual fast food for women on the go. Now, here's Jean Ann.
Here I am indeed. Happy Thursday, everybody. We're over the hump. We're sliding into the weekend, and I'm sure it's a busy weekend for most of you. With Christmas approaching, not rapidly, just, approaching, heading this way. I know most of you probably have your weekends filled. There's shopping to do and decorating, lights to hang, Christmas events, maybe a party or two, and things going on at the church. It's Advent, and there's cleaning and laundry and dishes, and grocery shopping, and yes, it's Christmas. Welcome to A Life of Simple Joy, and welcome to the 12 Simple Joys of Christmas. I'm Jean Ann Duckworth, and I'm here to help you all year long reduce the stress in your life, but especially during this holiday season, I'm here to help you reduce the stress of the holidays and to reawaken that joy that seems to be so in such short supply during this time of year, especially for women. So incredibly overwhelmed. It just, you get to be a little crazy sometimes because there's so much going on. But it doesn't have to be that way. You can work smarter, not harder this holiday season, and I'm here to help you do exactly that. I'm trying to get into show mode right now. This morning started off rather oddly. For those of you who listen regularly, a month or so ago, the outside of our house was painted. You would know because they were power washing the house one day when I was doing the program. That was fun. That and replacing some boards outside. Well, we rent our house, and a couple of weeks ago, the owner showed up, and she had been out of town when they finished, and her husband, her grandson, somebody came around and did the post-inspection, but, women tend to notice more fine details than men do. No offense, guys. It's just, it's built into us. It's like I tell my husband, he would make fun of me for not being able to back out of our driveway, which is rather tight. And I said it's because men have better spatial vision than we do. We see colors more distinctly. They see spaces more distinctly. Anyway, she came over and was walking around, and she noticed a lot of things that we missed. And I've just been kind of holding my breath, waiting, hoping we put up Christmas lights. Mr. Diva put up Christmas lights the other day, and I kept thinking, if they come around and, all this stuff has to be taken down. No, you're just going to have to wait. But this morning, the painters showed up, and we had no clue they were coming. I'm not criticizing. I believe it was done like that because there were just a few things that needed to be done, and we hadn't made an inconvenience. But I think no one wanted to inconvenience us. But listening to them going around and talking about the house and then scraping stuff and then at one point getting the air compressor out to spray the paint on one place and, listening to all this, it was like, oh my gosh. I have this, it's nothing major. I just have a little routine and I like things being quiet and I like to focus on what it is I'm going to say and kind of piddle with a few things before I go on the air, and I just kind of got thrown off my game a little bit. But now I've gotten that off my chest and I feel much, much better. So we can get into this. I've been sharing some different ways, focusing each day on different topics to help you reduce your holiday stress. I talked about preparing for the holidays and how to plan your shopping so that you don't become exhausted and you don't spend too much money. I discussed Advent as an incredible family tradition you can continue or begin as a way to just kind of slow things down from the outside world into the day your family comes home. This week I talked about decorating outside, and then yesterday I talked about decorating inside. Today, my topic is homemade gifts. For a long time, there was a bit of a stigma attached to homemade gifts. People would sometimes be cruel about it. Oh, well, I guess they were too cheap to go out and buy anything. Had to make, some pilly little thing and hand it out. I believe part of that stigma has gone away, but as far as the recipient, the person getting the gift feels, I don't think they usually feel that way. I think sometimes there's a stigma on the end of the person giving the gift. We kind of get in our heads that we have to go out and spend money. This isn't a contest, folks. It really isn't. And if you are exchanging gifts with anybody that sees it as a contest, well, that's just their darn problem, and you can't make it yours. I was raised, and I do firmly believe that it is indeed the thought that counts. It's why, I'll tell you quite honestly, not with homemade gifts, but it's why I have absolutely no problem with re-gifting. If somebody gives you something and you really can't use it, it isn't, they give you a bottle of wine and you don't drink wine. They give you a box of chocolates and you can't eat it. It's got nuts in it. They give you a gift card someplace where you never shop. Give it to somebody else. Give it to someone who's going to enjoy it. I don't see any problem with that. I had a number of years ago a young woman, as part of the Christmas gift she gave me these 2 glass candlesticks. They're rather heavy, almost like paperweight heavy. When you turn them one way, you can put a taper, a long candle, skinny candle, in it, and when you flip them the other way, a tea light fits in it. Well, what I found, I had bought these small glass candle holders at Dollar Tree. And I would buy little pillars, short pillars, like 2 inches. These candle holders are about 3 inches high. To put inside, but it made a mess inside, and, because the candle wax would get all over it, and then I was always scraping it out, and I didn't like it. But if I put a tea light in it, it just kind of disappeared in this candle holder, the one from Dollar Tree. Well, I came to the realization that these candle holders that Nicole had regifted me fit perfectly inside the larger glass ones from Dollar Tree, And if I turned them over for the tea light side, I could put a battery tea light inside, and it worked perfectly. The light, it reflected off the tea light holder and then off the larger holder, and it was great. So I loved it. I absolutely loved it. I have no problem with people giving me things that they have received and they have no use for. Why let it sit around and collect dust just because you feel, well, I can't do anything. I shouldn't give it away or whatever you might think. So regifting, I have no problem with that. And I have no problem with homemade gifts. I believe because cottage industries, with the advent of Etsy and a lot of online sites along those lines, particularly women, I know men do it, but particularly women who are making things at home, whatever it might be. And wow, is there a variety of stuff out there. Because they're making things and selling them online, this idea of homemade has taken on a much, for lack of a better word, a classier tone than it once did. It isn't quite the garish gift image that it once was. You may think, oh, I don't have talent like that. I don't know how to make things. I don't sew. I don't knit. I don't crochet. I don't paint. I don't work with tools. I can't make things. So you can make things. Homemade doesn't mean starting from scratch. It just means something you can put together yourself. So I'm going to talk today about homemade gifts. Talk about why I think they're important and some of the ideas you can get making homemade gifts, how to make homemade gifts. I have some recipes to share that work well with homemade gifts. I'm doing 2 bread recipes today. If you watch my video, if you go to the website at simplejoy.org, the video I have on there today, I talk about creating gift sets. I'll talk about that more later. And I'll talk about how I use these breads with the gift sets. There's a lot you can do, a whole lot, and it's a way of showing your appreciation to people, all the way from just a small token of your appreciation to something much larger and more elaborate. And it really doesn't take much talent to be able to do it. I'm living proof. So let me take a break, and I'll be right back with my first recipe, and then we'll get into make gifts. I'm Jean Ann Duckworth, and this is A Life of Simple Joy. I have to pay attention. I'm naughty when I'm reading a mystery right now, and I'm almost to the point where it's starting to come together, and I put the long music on so I can pick up my book and read a few pages. And I had to keep telling myself, listen to the music. You don't want to suddenly realize, oh, it's over. Boy, it's sure what happened to the music. I'm sorry. I'm getting a little punchy today. And I don't know why. It's the holidays. I'm enjoying the holidays. My family, Mr. Diva and darling daughter are both going to be out this evening. I'm going to finish up a little decorating. I'm going to take some pictures to be able to share with you, so I can show you how I did my Santa Claus pictures. And let me tell you something about that while I'm thinking about it. And if you haven't listened to yesterday's program, I have these frames I bought a number of years ago and stuck away. I knew I'd use them for something. I didn't know what. They're large frames. They're like 8.5 by 11. And they had mats in them so that you could put a 5 by 7 photo inside. I painted them red and to use in the kitchen, and I put in these photos from a 1929 cookbook that came with my grandmother's first electric refrigerator. And they're great pictures, drawings. They're watercolors of women in cloche hats and these flapper-style dresses. They're fabulous. And I came to the realization over the weekend that, I have these great vintage Santa photos that I downloaded from their drawings from Microsoft Clip Art site. I can print those out and put those in the frames, and I put little puffy stickers on some of the frames, and I used those as decorations around my house. Work with what you have and see how you can adapt it to make it fit in. And one of the things I was going to tell you is not only can you go to the Microsoft site and find some of these photos, but Google like vintage Christmas ads. And, things like the Coca-Cola Santa Claus ads will come up. And see if you can find a way. I have a Mac, so when they come up, I can just click on it and drag it over to my desktop quite easily. See if there's a way you can print them out. You're just using it for your own home. You're not selling them at the swap meet on the weekend. You're using it for your own purpose. So, you could print it out and frame these classic Christmas ads, whatever they might be, for whatever company, and decorate your home with those. I think it would be really cute to do something like that. So I'll take some photos to show you what I did and just kind of tickle your imagination, your creativity on some of the things you might do. Christmas recipes. You can find these written out if you visit the website at simplejoy.org. On the home page, there is a calendar of the 12 days of Christmas, or 12 simple joys of Christmas, and each topic. And as I go along, I add a link to the talk show, to the recipes for the day, and to the video for the day. Also, if you visit the Simple Joy blog at, are you ready? Boy, this is so creative. blog.simplejoy.org. Wow. Sat up nights trying to come up with that one. I'll have these up there also, and you can find out every Monday through Friday in the Kindle store. I feature, we have a free a free book of the day. So you can go there and see what book is free that day. I do links to different articles on how to decorate your home or crafts you can do and other recipes from other sources. There's all sorts of things you can find on the in the blog. So pop over to the blog, check it out, see what it is you see. Why is it always fine? I always like it when I see a typo in something And then I can't help but wonder, in bake, I left the E off, so it was B-A-K. Now, it's not underlined, so it didn't catch it as a typo. What is B-A-K? I have to look it up. Anyway, today I'm offering you 2 bread recipes. Let me give you a little background on this. I like making Christmas cookies. When I was growing up, my mom and I made cookies together, and then when she became so ill, she really couldn't do it anymore. I took over making cookies. Usually I would make spritz cookies, and I'd make the powdered sugar cookies, and I would make cut out sugar cookies. Sometimes I'd make pinwheels. That's about it. And I wouldn't make a huge number. Sometimes I'd make a lot because my mom liked taking a box of cookies to work, and she liked my baking. And then when Mr. Diva and I were married, I would do a lot of baking. I have a photo of myself in the house we rented right after we were married, and I'm sitting in the kitchen. I just look a wreck. I have powder all over me. On the floor next to me, I have a 25-pound bag of flour and a 25-pound bag of sugar. That's how serious I was about my baking. And we would each take huge boxes of cookies to work to share with the people with whom we worked. It was exhausting. I truly believe when a task like that becomes a chore, when the pleasure goes out of it, it's either time to stop doing it or it's time to find a new way to do it. And somewhere along the line, I'm not quite sure how it came about. I discovered bread making. Now, let me tell you what I like about bread. And I was trying to explain this to somebody, and I felt like I was insulting her, and I wasn't meaning to. I love cookies. Cookies are great. I still make cookies. I do. I buy some in the rolls at the store and make them that way, and I make some homemade cookies just to kind of mix it up a little bit. But I make them primarily for our enjoyment. But what I found is cookies are incredibly time-consuming. It's a thicker dough, so it takes quite a bit more work to mix it up. And cookies, a batch of cookies on a sheet, usually takes approximately, on average, 10 to 12 minutes to bake. So you're up, you're down, you're back, you're forth, you're scooping out more and more cookies or cutting them up or whatever you're doing and decorating them, and it's very time-consuming. It may only be an hour, but it's a long hour of being on your feet and not really being able to do anything else. And the thing about cookies is a lot of people make cookies. And some people take their cookie making terribly seriously and make elaborate cookies. I remember years ago when I first started reading cozy mysteries. Cozies are mysteries that involve ordinary people investigating the crime. And I read this one cozy that took place in a community in Connecticut. You know, it was an upscale community where the husbands all were executives in New York, and the wives were stay-at-home wives. And they were doing a cookie exchange. And if you've never been to one, a cookie exchange is usually where you get, 6 to 12 women together, and each of them brings, if there's, 6 women, you bring 6 dozen cookies. And each of you takes a dozen cookies from each batch, each kind that a woman brought, and you go home with this marvelous mixture of cookies. When I do Advent series this time of the year, I encourage the women. We do a cookie exchange at some point. But the women in this book, they were overachievers, and they were making just these incredibly elaborate and time-consuming cookies because they couldn't be outdone by anyone else. And some people are like that, not because they're trying to show off, but because they're just very good at it. But as I was saying originally, before I went off on that long and winding road, a lot of people make cookies. And I'm not saying cookies aren't special, just a lot of people do it. But not many make bread. And because not many people make bread, I find when I give bread, a lot of people tend to be really impressed because there's this thought that bread is difficult to make. And it isn't. I think bread's a lot easier than cookies. You mix it up in the same way you'd mix up a cake mix. You put it in the oven, and then it bakes anywhere from 30 to 60 minutes. And, during that time, you can go do something else. What I have done, each of these recipes, the 2 recipes I'm going to share today, and then I think I'm going to dig out, I have a recipe, I'll tell you that in a minute. I'm doing it as a regular size loaf pan, like you'd make meatloaf in, like you think of as a bread pan. What was I going to say? When we were first married, I would make banana bread or pumpkin bread. And somewhere along the line, I found this bread pan where it was 4 smaller pans attached to one another. They were in a row and, freestanding. I had found 2 small bread pans, but I'd have to make a couple batches. And then I found this foursome. And I found with my pumpkin bread recipe, I could make 6 smaller loaves of bread, the 4 in the pan and then the 2 standalones, and bake them in the oven all at the same time. And they made great gifts. And then years later, that was back in Illinois, when we moved out here, one day I think it was when I was at the swap meet, the Orange County Marketplace, one of the stalls is this great big stall that sells all kitchen stuff. And I found a bread pan where it was 8, it looked like a muffin pan might, only the indentations were in the shape of loaves of bread. 8 small loaves of bread, about the size, a little smaller than the palm of your hand. Well, that was perfect. I could take that and make 8 little loaves of bread and wrap them up and do, different types of bread and give them out as gifts. And I'll tell you how I do that and what you do. With these recipes, what you have to do is most bread like this, not the yeasty kind of bread, this isn't that kind of bread. It takes about 60 minutes to bake when you do it in a regular loaf pan. When you start going into the smaller ones for the 4, I think it would take about 45 minutes. And for the little ones, it was anywhere from 20 to 30 minutes. You have to take toothpicks and keep checking them so they don't get overly cooked. So that being said, my first recipe is for banana nut bread. What you want to do is watch for bananas to go on sale. And then buy your bananas. I'll tell you in a minute, but it takes 3 large or 4 small, and they need to be really ripe, really ripe. I mean, if they're dark brown on the outside, that's dandy. Put them in a brown paper bag and then stick them away for a couple of days and keep checking on them. And when they get to be anywhere from just incredibly freckled to almost black, they're perfect. You want them to be really mushy. And, banana bread's one of the ways I don't like speckled bananas. So when they get that way, I let them go, and then I make banana bread. So you need 2 cups of sifted flour, 1 teaspoon of baking soda, 1/4 teaspoon of salt, 1/2 a cup of butter or margarine, 1 cup of sugar, 2 eggs, 1 teaspoon of vanilla, 3 large or 4 small mashed ripe bananas, and 1 cup of chopped nuts, and the nuts are optional. Measure and sift together the flour, baking soda, and salt. Cream the butter and sugar together, then add the eggs and vanilla, and stir until thoroughly mixed. Now, I do this in my mixer. I have one of those, Oster, KitchenAid, whatever it is, mixer with the bowl where it spins itself and you just keep adding. So I do that. I use that. I usually, I'll take the bananas and put them in a separate bowl, and I have a dough cutter. If you don't know what that is, Google it. If you use a dough cutter when you're making like pie crust, because you have to cut the butter into the flour to make the dough. I don't do pie crust. Why would I have a dough cutter then? For things like mashed bananas, you take it and you just use it to mash the bananas up, big time. Or you can take a whisk. If they're soft enough, you can just whisk them. How many eggs does it take? 2 eggs. Okay. So once you've creamed the butter and sugar, you've added the eggs and the vanilla, and you've mixed that thoroughly, scrambled, stir in the mashed bananas. Put the bananas in, let them get mixed in real well. And then gradually fold in the dry ingredients and mix it well. Excuse me. Turn off your mixer, scrape the blades, take the bowl, add the nuts, and blend them into the entire mixture. You want to pour this batter into a well-greased 9 by 5 by 3 inch loaf pan, and then bake in a 325 degree oven for 55 to 60 minutes. And what you want to do is keep testing. Get toothpicks, make sure you have toothpicks on hand, and test the center to make sure it's done. Why do you use toothpicks? Because the dough will stick to the wood. It doesn't do as well with metal or anything else like that. When I was a kid, you're going to die. We used to pull straws off brooms, and you'd scrub it real well, and that's how you would test cakes and things like that. And the good thing about the broom straws is the fact that they're longer. Your bread's going to puff up. So you really need to make sure you get into the center of that thing to test it and make sure it's done. So that's banana bread. And I will tell you after a bit how you can use the banana bread and the pumpkin bread recipe as part of your homemade gifts. Homemade gifts. Again, I took the word homemade and used it as an acrostic to talk to you about what it is you're doing in all of it. So H is for heart. One of the things I like about homemade gifts is it really is something that comes from the heart. When you make something homemade, when someone gives you something homemade, no matter how good it is, if they give you, cookies that, you break a tooth on if you ate it, if they give you a knit hat that is the most garish colors you've ever seen in your life, a sweater where one sleeve's longer than the other, or, a piece of ceramic work that is lumpy and out of shape, it doesn't really matter. It was a labor of love, and that's the gift they're giving you. The love for you, the caring for you that they put into that present is the gift you have absolutely forever. I have things that Katie made and gave to me, little notes, little doodads, whatever it might be, and it might not be the best made, it might not be something I use much, but when I look at it, it just makes me smile. It makes me feel good. I have things Mr. Diva made for me over the years, and It warms my heart when I see these things. I really believe it is the thought that counts. Wow, this has nothing to do with homemade, but I have to share this story because I forget about it until this time of the year. Let's see if I can do it without crying. Katie and I were at South Coast Plaza, which, if you Google it, you don't live in this part of the country. It's not just a huge mall. It's considered an international mall. People actually fly in from other parts of the world and stay at the 5-star hotel across the street and go to South Coast to shop. This was a number of years ago. Katie was fairly small, not super small. She was maybe 12 or so. Seems like she was still in grade school, maybe middle school, I guess, by that point. And we were in Nordstrom. We walked by something caught Katie's eye. And she said to me, she was big enough that I could let her do this. She said to me, why don't you go over and look at something? I want to check something out. I'll be right back. So I went over and I was looking at whatever. And a few minutes later, she came up, and if you've ever bought a present at Nordstrom, they put it in a box, and they have this little band they put around it. She came up with a bag, and she handed it to me, and she said, I bought this for you as a Christmas present, but it's something you can use now, so I want you to open it. And I opened it up, and inside was just the cutest little, it was Nordstrom, so obviously it was nice, but it was just this little, felt Christmas tree pin with a couple of sequins on it and some little beads on it. And it was just, a little pin about 2 inches tall. And she said, I wanted to give it to you because you can wear it now. I didn't want to wait for Christmas because you wouldn't be able to wear it. Do you like it? Do you like it? And she stood there with this shining look on her face. And I was so overwhelmed. And that the thought she put into this thing. And the funniest thing about the whole experience was I looked up and there was this woman standing there who had watched this exchange and just froze. She just stood there watching. And as I looked at her, she's wiping her eyes. She's standing there in the store crying, watching Katie and I go through this. Well, of course, I absolutely loved it and wore it until I wore it out and still have it. Because it meant so much. Gifts from the heart mean so much, and homemade gifts have a lot of heart in them. The O is for others, and believe it or not, in this case, it's not about asking for help. The others is homemade gifts give you the opportunity to think about them. You have to consider the recipient and what it is they like, who they are, their personality, the kind of things they like. I'll tell the whole story after a little bit, but I make these gift baskets for the guys that work with Mr. Diva. And no two are alike. They kind of have the same sort of things in them, but each of them takes into consideration the recipient and the things that they like. And we have to know who they are and what they would like in order to be able to give them something like that. So, when you're making homemade, you have to consider the other person and what it is they might like. Their personality, the kind of activities they're into, all of that. Let's see. Simple tip. As I said, homemade type gifts, the things that you can consider for homemade gifts have actually gone a little more mainstream now. If you're at a loss for what could go into a homemade gift, and homemade gifts isn't just, knitting a scarf, it's gift baskets, it's any kind of where you take items and put it together and create a unique, I'll say, product out of it. If you're at a loss, go to a neighborhood, go somewhere like we have here in Old Town in the shopping district, where there are smaller gift shops, and wander around and look in there, because they'll have things, gift baskets with bath products in it or with food products in it, things like that. It'll kind of give you an idea of the sort of things you can put into some of these gift baskets, these gift sets, these homemade gifts, things you put together for the people on your Christmas list. So there's a vast wealth of information out there, things you can go and look at to give you an idea of how to get started. So let me take a break, catch my breath, and I'll be right back. Homemade gifts. They should come from the heart, and you need to take in consideration the other person. M, the first M, is for memory. Memories. No, I'm not going to do that to you. It's just too, wow. No. That's my gift to you. I won't sing. Consider some of the memories, the things you've shared with the individual for whom you're making the gift. And, that's what I'm looking. What did I write there? Yes, base the gift on one. Let's say you all had a great day at the beach. So, you find things that are beach related. Maybe, you make a gift basket with bath products, but it's, sea salt, scrub, and seashells, soaps, things like that. Or maybe you went to a baseball game with somebody and had a great day. So you come up with, you do a gift basket that has, baseball cards, baseball cards and peanuts and popcorn and Cracker Jacks and I don't know, Billy Crystal's 61 asterisks, perhaps, memories. And I know, homie, I'm a gift basket nut. It's just something I got started on, and I like putting them together. I like thinking about the people and what I can do. Use a memory. Use something they enjoy, something you remember about them, something you shared with them as kind of a jumping off point as to what it is you can get for them, what can go into their gift basket or, gift bag, whatever it is. But the items you put together. And you're thinking, well, that's not homemade. Homemade's where, you make something or create something, but you are creating it because you're bringing together unrelated items and pulling them all together and putting and creating one final product, one final gift out of it with a theme. So it is homemade, and I'm trying to be homemade in a different kind of light. So memory, use a memory as a starting point for putting a gift together for them. E, I have two things for E's. The first one is experiment. If you're doing gift basket, it took me a while to learn how to do it, and I'm still not a pro. I see some of these gift baskets and the way they do them, and I sometimes have problems getting the products to stay in one place and items, roll around or shift and move and do stuff, and I get frustrated and I look at these other things and or when they go to wrap them, they put the cellophane around. They look lovely, and I look at mine and think, not so lovely. So you have to play with it, experiment, do it, take it apart. Let's see. No, I don't have that as a tip. I'll give you this tip. One of the things you can use, one of the things I learned is when you do a tin, especially a basket, I was always trying, I'd put stuff in it, and then I'd think, if I had a lot of stuff, it'd be a pretty big basket. And you couldn't see anything then because it sunk down. Well, I didn't realize at first that these gift baskets had filler in the bottom. Or one of the things I was doing is I would get that crinkled, shredded paper that you use to add color to it, and I was using whole bags on a basket. It was costing me a fortune. And then one time I got a gift set, and I started looking at it, and the first thing I noticed was there was filler in the bottom. So I started using, sometimes I just use the plastic grocery bags to build it up. You can also go to dollar stores and get the styrofoam that goes in floral arrangements, those styrofoam blocks, and put that in the bottom of your basket because it's harder. It gives you a firmer, and with the styrofoam, if you have to, you can cut it up. If you need bigger, go to Michael's or go to Joann's, one of those stores, Hobby Lobby, and get bigger blocks. And you can cut it so it fits very nicely in your basket. If you're putting bottles like wine or beer, I do baskets with beer in them, you can actually cut a piece out and sink it into that foam so it stands upright and it stays nice and firm. And as far as the crinkle paper goes, you don't have to use a whole lot of it. You put everything in, and then you just tuck the crinkle paper around where there are bare spots. So it only takes a little bit of the crinkle paper, and it just adds color. And that way, the person getting the basket doesn't have all this paper falling everywhere when they go to take the basket apart. So experiment, play with them. Do one, and do it, and take it apart, and do it again. Excuse me. And until you find a way that works. And once you do, I'll tell you in a second how to go about making this much simpler on you. But experiment. E is also for easy. And don't wear yourself out. It doesn't have to be super elaborate. If you're not real sure what you're doing, if money is an object, you don't have to go huge. It doesn't have to be a giant-sized gift basket that takes 2 arms and a leg to carry. If you have to put it on a cart and push it in, you've gone too far. You can do very small gift baskets, gifts. Creativity is what is called for. Making sure. No, I didn't. Creativity is what is called for. Remember, the less money you have to spend or want to spend, the more creativity you need to invest. It's a trade-off. I'd rather use a lot more creativity and a lot less money. It's not a matter of being cheap. I just think the more creativity I put in it, the more interesting, the better gift I create, I develop. Simple tip. Let's see. Yeah. Okay, I've done 2. Simple tip. Many years ago when I first started doing this, when I was working in the audio department at the church where I worked was a very large church whose Sunday services are worldwide broadcast. They're videotaped and then, broadcast. I'm not going to tell you where I worked. Because I worked as part of the production department, there were a lot of women who worked in my area. There were the women who worked in production. There were the women who worked on the Christmas pageant we were doing. There were the women I knew from the women's ministry. So there were a lot of women, and I wanted to give them a Christmas present, but we really didn't have any money. I had had an accident. I'd been out of work for a long time. We were trying to catch up on our bills, and money was exceptionally tight, but I wanted to do something. So I came up with this idea. I went to the dollar store, and I found little tiny gift bags. They were about 2, maybe 3 inches high. The smallest gift bags I could find, tiny ones. And I got about 2 dozen of those, a bunch of those, and they weren't $1. They were inexpensive. It was a bunch of them for $1. And then I bought a box of, I think the first batch I did, there were 12 of them. So I bought a box of chamomile tea, and I bought a box of peppermint tea, and I bought a bag of dark chocolate Dove chocolates, and I bought a tub of those peppermints. If you go to I see them at Walgreens and CVS all the time. These peppermints come in a tub. They're wrapped in plastic, and they're at the dollar store too. And they're not the crunchy, hard candy cane kind of peppermints. They look like candy cane, but they're soft ones, like the after dinner mints used to be. When I was a kid and you go to restaurants, you'd get these mints, and they were great. They're softer mints. I'd get a tub of those, and what I did is in each bag, I put a peppermint tea bag and a chamomile tea bag and a Dove chocolate and a couple of the little peppermints. And I made up these little cards to tell the women. I attached them to each bag, and I told them it was a holiday stress buster. That when they got home, they were to have the peppermint tea and the peppermints to settle their stomachs from the tension of the day. And then before bed, they were to have the chamomile tea and the chocolate to help them relax and enjoy themselves and get a good night's sleep. It was a little nothing. In fact, sitting here, I'm almost a little embarrassed thinking about what a silly little gift it was. But the women loved it. It took me a while to think of it. It took a little while to put them all together. And then I went around and I started passing them out. And they all really liked their gifts. They liked this idea that, it was, a gift to help them reduce their holiday stress, because I was already preaching that message. So it doesn't have to be much. It doesn't have to be expensive, but be creative and consider the people on your gift list and the people you want to give little gifts to and ways you can make it special for them. Quick break. I'm doing the short one this time, and I'll be right back. told you I'd do the short one. I didn't even pick up the book. It was tempting, but I didn't. Let me share this recipe for pumpkin bread, and then I'll do the final four and share some other ideas with you. Pumpkin bread. I like pumpkin bread, and I'm going to give you this recipe, and then I'm going to tell you what I do to change it up. It requires 3 cups of flour, 1 teaspoon of baking soda, 1 teaspoon of salt, 3 teaspoons of cinnamon, 2 cups of sugar, 2 cups of pumpkin, 4 eggs beaten, 1 1/4 cup of oil, and half a cup of chopped nuts. Sift all dry ingredients into a large mixing bowl. With a wooden spoon, make a deep well in the center of the dry ingredients. So you're going to create a little, like you're making mashed potatoes, putting mashed potatoes on your plate and mushing it down to put the gravy inside, just like that. Into this well, add the other ingredients. So crack the eggs, put the eggs in there. Put the, what I think I would do, dry ingredient, do the cinnamon in with the flour and everything. So you're going to pour the oil into there, you're going to put the eggs into there, and you're going to put the 2 cups of pumpkin. And then mix it very carefully. You only want to mix it enough to dampen all the dry ingredients. And then once that's mixed, add the nuts. And let me add this. I like to put in... I buy dried cranberries, and I think dried cranberries taste really good in pumpkin bread. Raisins just don't do it for me. I like the tartness of the cranberry. Another thing I do is once I get this mixed, the cinnamon's nice. I like to put nutmeg in it. I like pumpkin bread that has a bit of a kick to it. The nutmeg makes it darker. The nutmeg just adds a spiciness to it that I really like. I'm not going to tell you how much. Just kind of sprinkle a little bit in and mix it. Do it in the pumpkin. Measure out the pumpkin and put it in a bowl. Do it in the pumpkin and keep adding it and smell it. And when you can really smell that nutmeg, you're set. This recipe is enough for 2 loaves of pumpkin bread. So you divide it into 2 loaf pans. Make sure they're well greased. And then bake in a 350-degree oven for 1 hour. And again, if you do the smaller loaves, same oven temperature, maybe turn it down just a touch if you have to so it doesn't get too brown outside. And keep testing it as you go along to make sure you don't overcook them. So pumpkin bread and banana nut bread. I'm going to look in my, when we were first married, Mr. Diva gave me a McCall's, I think it's McCall's, cookbook. Not because he felt he needed help cooking, because I liked to cook and he wanted to share recipes with me. And I think it's in that cookbook. There is a great recipe for bread. It is just a plain bread recipe. And the kind of bread you make out of it depends on what you add to it. When I like to do, I do the banana nut and the pumpkin. But years ago at Smart and Final, I used to be able, they had this fabulous plain muffin mix. It came in a huge industrial-sized box. And I would buy, 4 of them at Christmas. And on the box, it had recipes where, you didn't make just plain old muffins. You could add dried fruit and nuts and flavorings and make different kinds of muffins. And if you followed the instructions for making muffins and did them in my little loaf pans, it worked out perfectly. They don't make it anymore. I can't find it anywhere. I've searched online. I cannot find it. If you know where to find it, please let me know. It makes it so much easier. I love it. But this recipe in my McCall's cookbook is virtually the same thing. It's just a plain either bread or a muffin recipe. And the kind of muffins you make depends on what you add to it. What I like to do is, and I'm going to tell you it towards the end of the program, these gift sets I put together. I make a blueberry pecan bread. I make a cherry almond bread where I add almond flavoring and almonds, and I'll sprinkle nuts on top of them. There's no limit. You know, you can do an orange, you can do a lemon, all kinds of things you can do with it, depending on what it is you add to it. So you can make up what I would do. Well, I'm not going to tell you all that right now. All sorts of things you can do. Let me get to the rest of these, and then I'll tell you about my gift sets that I would do. So your gift should be from the heart. You need to consider others. You can base your gift on a shared memory. And in order to put it together, you want to experiment and make it easy for yourself. Don't try and do something so elaborate you're just banging your head against the wall. And here's why it needs to be easy. Multiples. Sometimes you'll find you need to make multiples. These kind of gifts work really well if you work in an office or work somewhere where you want to be able to give some of your coworkers or different people, you know, people at church, whoever it might be, a little something, but you don't want to, you know, be spending $100 on it. And these little gift sets are a way you can do that. When I start making the gift sets, let me tell you about the gift sets I made for the guys with that work with Mr. Diva. A number of years ago, not all that long ago, but a while back, when I was working at Barnes & Noble, we would do Secret Santa. And one year, the person whose name I drew, one of our assistant managers, was a young woman named Gwen. And Gwen had started dating the music manager, Jonathan. Gwen and Jonathan are now married and have a darling, darling little girl named Claire. But this was back early in their relationship, and I didn't really know Jonathan well, and, you know, I just hadn't gotten to know him. And I drew his name in the Secret Santa. Well, Jonathan, and I wasn't quite sure how I felt about him yet. I'm sorry, Jonathan, I didn't know you. But I adore Gwen. And out of respect for Gwen, I wanted to give Jonathan a really nice present. I can't remember how I got the idea. If somebody had given us one of those, if you go to places like Big Lots, you can find, you know, Target, or not really Target, Walmart, Kmart. You find these gift sets that have food in them, and it's just all kinds of little stuff. If somebody had given us one or two of those and it was stuff we didn't really like, I don't know what it was. This is where I talk about regifting. Also, I here in Orange, not near us, but, you know, still in our city, not too far away, there is a business, JDW, and JDW specializes in products, gift baskets. And you go there, it's a small kind of warehouse, real small, but it works for them. It's perfect. And they have nuts and crackers and sausage and cheese and teas and coffees and all sorts of things you could use to make gift baskets. So I went there and I got some things, and I had the stuff from this other gift basket that I broke apart. And I went to Bevmo, and I can't remember which company does it. One of the beer companies does this Christmas celebration, this Celebration Ale. Maybe that's it, Celebration Ale. That comes in good-sized bottle and beautiful labels. I love the bottles. So I bought a couple of those, and I had a flat basket that was pretty big. So I put my little bags down, and I put the beer, 2 bottles of beer in it, and I started filling it up with crackers and cheese and sausage and nuts and pretzels and dip, all sorts of stuff. And then I tucked the little colored crinkled paper around it, and I have these bags, plastic cellophane type bags that you slide these gift baskets in, and I sealed it up, and I put a ribbon around it, made it really pretty, and a label on it, and I left it sitting on the dining room table to take to work. Enter Mr. Diva, walking by, and he stops, and I come in the dining room, and he's standing there staring at this thing. What's that? I said, it's a gift basket. Where'd you get it? I made it. Who's it for? I said, it's for Jonathan. He's my Secret Santa. And we were only supposed to spend $10, and I think I spent over that. But because I used items I already had for part of it, from this other gift, that part didn't cost me anything, so it made it real easy. And he's standing there, and he's looking at it, and he's thinking, and then he turns to me, and he goes, do you think you can make 3 more? And it was for 3 of the guys with whom he worked. And over the years, what I've ended up doing is I do them in various sizes. I make big ones for a couple of his closer friends at work, and then medium-sized ones for other guys that he's close to but not quite as close, and then small ones for the guys that, he wants to do something but he's not really that close to. So that's the story of the gift baskets and how they evolved, how I got into doing them as gifts. So multiples, I had to learn how to do these in multiples, and they're different. Now I just do them, I do a number, but just do the big ones for Keith and Ray. And they contain the beer, but Ray is a vegan. So when I go to buy the food for it, I have to be a little more creative with him. So I get, I know he likes dark chocolate, and I get and now apparently he's into the dark ales, which is perfect with dark chocolate. I can get a dark ale for him and do a lot of dark chocolate in this basket and sweets and things like that. I'm set. And with Keith, I do the sausage and the cheese and other things as well. So I have a lot of fun putting these baskets together. They are fun. And in the video, it's a couple years old, but it shows you how I put them together and what I do. So be prepared to make multiples, and once you get down how to do one of them, you can do kind of an assembly line, and it goes very quickly, and it's very easy. You just get everything all set up and all spread out and keep adding things so that you're sure you get the same thing in all the baskets. Homemade, A is for attractive. You want to find a way to make it look attractive, no matter, a basket. If you're making some other kind of gift, just because it's homemade doesn't mean tacky. Homemade means nice. It should be maybe not good enough that if you needed to, you could take it out and sell it, but it should be at least try to aim to make it as attractive as you possibly can. And that's why I do the ribbons on it, and I get nice containers, and I try to be creative when I'm making it, just to make it look nice. And speaking of containers, if you're going to be putting together these gift sets, these holiday baskets, there's all sorts of containers out there. My first stop would be Big Lots. Big Lots has these cardboard food trays. Watch the video. I show them in there. They come in at least 3 sizes, small, medium, and large. And then sometimes I can find really large ones, and I use those for Keith and Ray's gift sets. They have tins, they have boxes of clothes, they have bags. It's really cool. You can get these bags now where they're kind of paper bags, but the front of it's clear cellophane. And you can stack cookies in them and then seal them up. Those are really nice to hand out. When I do something like that, what I like to do is I take a basket with me and put all these in it, and then I go around and I pass them out. It's a lot of fun. I really like doing that. And I label it. I go in and I create a little label saying what's inside, pumpkin bread, cherry almond bread, so people know what it is exactly, without me having to stand there and explain over and over again what it is. And even if I'm doing the bread, I wrap it up in the plastic wrap and I put ribbon around it so it looks real cute. So Big Lots is the first place. If you go to the dollar store, I get tins at the dollar store. They may be out of them now, but look and see. The tins come in different sizes. They even have these cute little lunchbox type ones that you can put different things in. I use those to make the gift sets with the devotions to go, and they work out perfectly. If you go to the website and look at the catalog, you can see the different gift sets and get your own idea how to put some of these things together. So containers, Michael's has them. Usually places like Walmart and Kmart have them. Shop around and look at containers and be creative. It used to be I couldn't find containers to put cookies and things in. So I would take gift boxes or even shoe boxes and I just gift wrapped them and presented those to people. You go with what you've got and what you can find. And if that's what you have to do, then that's what you do. Be creative when it comes to your container because that's part of making it attractive. Let me take a real quick break here, and I'll be back to finish up and tell you about gift sets. There's nothing like me sniffing really loud. Allergies. Wow, what a pain in the butt. Homemade gifts. When I talk homemade gifts, I primarily mean these gift sets that I put together. Sometimes I make things, and if you go to the website, there are all things you can make that I've shared. Cute little jars and just all sorts of things you can put together. But so many of us get so busy, it's hard. If you're going to make things, I know people kvetch about the fact that, I went into Joann's and they already have Christmas stuff in there and it's only June. Well, yeah, it's because if you're going to start making any kind of like a Christmas quilt or stockings or a needlepoint or something, you have to start really early. So that's why they start carrying these things so early in the year. But at this time of the year, homemade, I look at the baked goods you can put together, and Monday my topic is baking, so I'm going to talk more about things to bake and how to make it easy on you, but still have kind of a homemade cookie Christmas, bread Christmas. There are all sorts of, you can make all kinds of gift sets. It should be from the heart. It should take the recipient into consideration, others, the other person. You might use a shared memory to help start things off. For experiment in putting the gift set together to figure out how it looks best and how it works best and make it easy on yourself. Don't go too elaborate. Start out small. You can always go bigger after that. Multiples. If you find something that works, and I'm going to give you a couple of ideas of what works, then you might want to do a whole bunch of them to give out to different people. And you want to make them as attractive as possible. Remember, the devil's in the details. The details are what make it stand out. The little food trays that I buy make the present look nice. The ribbons I put around it, the homemade labels in a cute little font, and if if you don't have a cute little font, go to 1001 Fonts, I think it's called. It's a place where you can download free fonts. And they have all sorts of fonts there, all kinds of cute little curly Qs and, all sorts of cute things you can use. The little labels I put on them, the little tags I put with them, the crinkle paper, the way I wrap it, just, the tin, all sorts of things go into the details. And the details are also in the combination of things, how you put it together so that it works well. And like I said, I'm going to talk to you about my gift sets, what you see in the video and some other things, and it'll give you a much better idea. So think of the little details. There are ways you can fill these gift sets in that it doesn't have to cost a whole lot of money. And finally, the E, as always, is enjoy. You should enjoy yourself while you're doing this. It shouldn't stress you out. I really cannot emphasize enough the fact that I truly believe if you become stressed when you're putting together any kind of present, if you're out shopping for it and it becomes a chore, if you're trying to wrap it and it becomes a headache, if you're putting these gift sets together and it's just big in the butt, something of that attitude kind of, it works its way into the gift, and it doesn't, the pleasure of the gift simply isn't there. It's like a stigma with the gift, and you don't want that. You work too hard putting these things together to allow that to happen. Don't do that. Enjoy yourself while you're having this. Make it fun. Think back to when you were a kid, and you were, when I was a kid, I remember making the cigar boxes with the pasta stuck to it and in Girl Scouts, and then it being spray painted gold and glitter and little things on it, and giving it to our moms for Mother's Day, and our moms put like little hankies and things like that in it. Tap into that feeling, how good that made you feel. And you want to put that into what it is you're doing when you're making these Christmas presents. So, homemade. My final tip. Homemade for me are gift baskets. I like making gift baskets for people. I go to Big Lots once Christmas is over, and I stock up on those food trays because they work well. I make, let me talk about the bread, and I'll talk more when I do baking next week. What I would do, especially when I was working at the church, and there were a number of people I wanted to give gifts, to whom I wanted to give gifts, I would make 16, so my little 8-loaf bread pan. I would make 2 batches, 2 pans of the cherry almond, and 2 of the blueberry pecan, and 2 of the pumpkin bread, and I'd have 16 loaves of olives. So that's 16, or so presents I'd have. And if I needed more, I could make a batch or 2 of whatever when I was finished. The small food trays holds 1 loaf of bread. The medium one holds 2. The big one holds 3. So I was set. Some people that I maybe didn't know very well, I'd give 1 loaf of bread to. Other people where I knew them a little better, but, still wasn't super close, 2 loaves. And again, I'd go out and I'd buy boxes of tea. Usually to go with the bread, I'd get, like a spiced tea, some kind of winter tea, something that would go well with this bread. And I'd do the bread, and I'd put a couple of tea bags in with it, and maybe I'd buy some kind of candy, the Dove or the peppermints or something else, and And when I make these gift baskets, even for the guys, when I get done doing Ray and Keith's, besides the paper, I want to kind of fill it in. So I have these bags of candy, and I sprinkle candy on top of it and use that as a filler. It doesn't have to be anything elaborate. Usually this time of year, those peppermints I was talking about, they come in nice-sized tubs, and you can get 2 for $5. Sprinkle some of those on it, or get some of the little candy canes and stick a couple of those in it. Go to the stores, go to Walmart, go to Walgreens or CVS, go to Kmart, one of those kind of stores. I'd say Target, but Target's really good for some of this, but I find Walmart and Kmart have lower prices when it comes to this kind of stuff. Go there and just look around and see what tickles your fancy. If something really speaks to you and you think, oh, that's really cute, get it, and you'll figure out a way to use it. You might go to the Dollar Tree and find cute little Christmas mugs. Well, Christmas mug, you can put if you don't have a place like JDW where I go and I can get cocoa and chai tea and things like that, go to World Market, and they have a lot of really cute flavored cocos. Look for flavored cocos. Look for different kinds of teas. Look for little bitty packets of coffee. I'll even buy inexpensive. I'll go to Big Lots and look at their gift sets, and if I find one that's inexpensive and the stuff in it looks good, I'll buy a couple of those, and then I break them apart and I use the stuff that's inside. Take these things, and you can get flavored cocoa and put them in the a mug, and then buy the long pretzel sticks, and you dip them in chocolate or you ice them, with white icing, and sprinkle Christmas sprinkles on it, and then wrap them up in plastic and add those to it, or get biscotti and add it to it, or little cookies. You can do a little bitty bag of cookies, some kind of small cookies, and add that to it. You can get you can do a basket with go to the dollar store and get a beer stein or a Pilsner, and go to the store and look for something interesting. Mr. Diva cracks up. I'm not a beer drinker. I don't like beer. Katie doesn't drink beer either. Don't get upset. Katie's 29, for heaven's sakes. But I've taught her, Dad likes beer. How do I know what to buy? Look for a name that's fun. And he likes pale ale, so look for something that just tickles your fancy, and, pale ale. She'll get him like Arrogant Bastard because she just thought it was hysterical that it was called that. Or one time I got somebody Downtown Brown, I think it's called, because I thought the label was really funny. Look for something that just tickles your fancy. If you can't get the Celebration Ale is really nice. You can take that and add it with a Pilsner and some peanuts, and put it in a little basket of some kind or a gift bag tied together with a nice bow, and huzzah, you've got this great gift that you created with them in mind, because what you find in the stores might not be as good because it wasn't made especially for them. You're making this especially for the recipient. With the little food trays with the one loaf of bread and the tea bag in it, and maybe a candy cane, you could make up a couple dozen of those and start passing them out. You can keep it near your door, and the UPS driver comes by, you can give one to them, or the postal carrier, you can give one to them, or you can take it out and hand it out to somebody here. If there's somebody who always waits on you at the grocery store or somewhere, you can give it to them because it just costs a few cents to make these things. It's easy to make homemade gifts, and it makes you feel so good to be able to pass these things out to people. When you're doing your baskets, find those little glue dots, and they are just a blessing. If you don't have that, if you absolutely have to, use your glue gun and glue stuff down lightly so that the glue dots aren't, it'll hold stuff in place, but it's not quite as sticky. But if you have to, you can use your glue gun, just a little dot of glue, just to hold the items in the basket so they're not shifting around all over the place. And like I said, if you really need to, if you're doing a larger basket, I think I may do this year, get a bigger piece of foam, cut it out so it fits perfectly in the bottom of your basket. And if you're doing beer or a glass or something like that, cut the foam out so you can sink it in there, and then it's held in place. And you can glue that foam into the bottom of the basket so it's not going to shift. Ha-ha, you're set. I think I covered everything. Watch the video. You get some ideas. Go to the stores and do a little research and see what you can find and just see what tickles your fancy. And it doesn't have to be food. You can get bath products. You can get, you can do movies and create a gift set that is, for a movie night. If somebody is into some kind of crafts like scrapbooking, you can put something together with scrapbooking paper and stickers and things like that, little punches, and make something like that. Wow, the list is absolutely endless. Wow, I think I'm about run out of steam. Let's see. Yes, next week. Let me see what my topics are for next week. My calendar here. Monday or Tuesday is baking. I know that. Wednesday is entertaining. And on Thursday, I'm talking about the little things. Some of the little things that, like Christmas cards. There wasn't any place to fit them in anywhere else, but I did want to talk about them specifically to cover it for the holiday season, for Christmas. The weekend's coming. I know you're going to be busy, but find some time to relax and enjoy yourself. Get yourself, a bottle of wine that you like, some special coffee or tea, some cocoa you like, some cookies. Sit down, relax, and enjoy yourself because it's Christmas time. And that relaxation, that's a gift you give yourself. For shopping, I strongly suggest, I'd like to suggest, you consider Devotions to Go or any of our books for Christmas. All week through tomorrow, I'm giving away The Simple Joy of Christmas. It's got recipes and entertaining ideas and articles on Christmas shopping, things like that. Go to Amazon.com, to the Kindle store, and just type in The Simple Joy of Christmas in the search, and it comes up. You don't need a Kindle device. You just need to download the Kindle app to your phone or your computer, and you have the book that way, and it's free. The Simple Joy of Advent is on there. It's not free this week, but it is only $2. However, The Simple Joy of Christmas has the Advent material in it. So if you get the Christmas book, you don't have to get the Advent book separately. All of our books are on Amazon. You can order them as regular sit down, open up the book and read it books, and they'll ship it to you, or you can do it as downloads. You can get somebody a Kindle and download a couple books to their Kindle for them and give it to them that way. What fun. What fun, what fun, what fun. That's all I have for this week. It's been great. We're through 2 weeks of The Simple Joy of Christmas, and we have 2 more weeks to go. We're going to have fun this Christmas, and I want you to have fun this weekend. So relax and enjoy yourself. I'm Jean Ann Duckworth. I'm wishing you life and silver. Have a great day.
Thank you for joining us for Life of Simple Joy. Life of Simple Joy is brought to you by Devotions to Go. Small enough to fit in your hand, powerful enough to fill you with the Word of God each day. Life of Simple Joy is a production of C Media. And thank you for listening.